Hey everybody, welcome back to the Jeep Journals. And I used to do a segment called 30 Days of Health. And right now I'm working with 25 pounds per arm. And basically I'm multitasking. So right now, if you watch my segment, you'll see that basically I've covered a lot of ground and I've made some songs. And basically, I've tried to have fun the whole time, and I try to vary it up so that I can work different muscles and achieve what it is that I'm trying to achieve, which is to regain my health. So, for right now, I'd like to take a moment to reintroduce you to what 30 Days of Health entails. So let me put this down. And welcome back. Thank you for pausing with me. As I've stated, tried to do a lot of things, tried to multitask, and you can see it in the videos. I've written songs and basically tried to put them out there with video clips that I recorded way in the past. I've been told by some of my viewers that my songs are cute, that they're actually really good, really well written, and on some of the later songs I've heard people say, you didn't even sound like yourself. That was like really, really good. And so I appreciate all the feedback, both on and offline. Right now, it is, I believe it's October the 16th or 17th. It's Sunday, so when I post this, you guys will know which date it is. I personally am not looking at the calendar every day. What I do know is that I've got an upcoming trip to Big Bend Ranch State Park this time. And it's a beautiful opportunity to visit this park with a friend. And we're both kind of going to be exploring this area almost for the first time. Me for sure for the first time. And I might actually have two friends joining me. Not quite sure how this is going to work out. What I do know is that I've been, again, trying to push my limits. In the past, you've seen where I've talked about just using food to address our health, addressing our sleep requirements by doing our best to go to sleep without anxiety, by not watching some of the things that we typically would subject ourselves to. And I've tried to encourage making note of our dreams when we wake up, even if it's just to write in a journal, so that we do something different the very moment that we wake up. Because as we know, if our health is our wealth, and if our health is something we're just kind of letting go without ever addressing it in person, then we're letting something take our health on an autopilot journey. And this isn't really a safe thing. Just like it's not safe to not put things back where they belong. Right now, I'm aware of where these weights are that I was carrying, because they can be literally stumbling blocks if I don't put them back to where they belong. So as a steward of all of the things that I'm entrusted to, that I'm able to bring on to myself, I need to do my best to take care of these things. If you've been watching my segments continually, you'll notice that I have sold a lot of my camera gear. As a steward of these items, it was in my best obligation to do the duty of selling these items so that other people could use them. And if I were monetarily able to have done so, I would have blessed and bestowed those items onto someone without ever charging them. Recently, I purchased a guitar, and somebody got kind of upset with me. There's an option on the site where I was purchasing the guitar to make an offer. So I made several offers, and we tried to meet in a respectable place for the transaction in terms of what the monetary value that guitar commanded was. And this person got really angry at me for using the option that was there. So I've noticed in a lot of cases that people have been getting increasingly overwhelmed and angry, especially if the conversations last more than 4 minutes. This particular conversation's coming up on 5 minutes. I feel like some people might be excitedly going, get to the point. What's the point of this story? The point of this story is you're here listening for 5 more minutes because you saw me doing some curls at the beginning of this for your health segment. And that might have gotten you motivated to look at some of what's going on. Some of the things that you might have seen, like let's say when I put the weight down and you saw this scary thing behind me, might have put you off. And at the same time, this hand-drawn Big Bend National Park sign that's behind me might be something that captivates you. The mountain lion that's on the trails that I'm going to see at some point on the trails, possibly looking at me like that, is also hand-drawn using dry erase markers. All of what I'm doing is to bring you a message that hopefully motivates you and inspires you to take the next step yourself. You know, we can all multitask. Right now you're watching a video. What are you doing? What's in your hand while you're watching this video? I mean, if I had a glass of water, I'd pick up the water and show you I'm drinking water. But that's not always the case. Sometimes, especially when I watch TV for entertainment purposes, sometimes I get so wrapped up in the advertisements that come along that talk about those sugary and meaty and cheesy sensational snacks that we can have. These are all habitual use type things, or they can become that, especially if we're not focusing on a regular basis as to what it is that we're picking up and what it is that we're doing. So when it comes to our health, I want to get back to the foundations and tell you that every evening when I go to sleep with a clear mind. And I do that often by sharing exactly how I'm feeling with the people who have especially tried to antagonize me. And when I say that, what I mean is I'm not arguing back with these people. I'm sending back clear questions that say, hey, you said this. Please explain this. If you're going to accuse me of doing something, please explain how you came to that conclusion, because this is my perspective. And so that leaves the burden of consideration on whoever it is who's actually lashing out. In this era, whether we care to admit it or not, we have a lot of people lashing out. And so for those reasons, I feel like I'm at an advantage by having been fortunate enough to grow a certain way so that people don't typically bully me in person. But that doesn't mean that people who haven't been accustomed to bullying for their whole lives, whether it's in a management capacity or a parental capacity or whatever familial capacity or a business capacity that they've been in, whether they're lashing out virtually sometimes would change if you were there in person. But on the flip side, if people don't expect you to have a spine, they're just going to continue to bowl you over. And they're going to do that without any consideration to how that affects your health, how many gray hairs that puts in that other person's hair. So with all of that in mind, when I tell you that I come here to bring you peace, love, and all that old school stuff, and when I show you by example, hey, I'm writing these songs that tell my feelings, that explain the story, and when I show you the artwork that I draw, and I even post things that show you when these things were created, and when I share these guitars with you, and when I share these belongings with you in a way where it says, look, this brings me joy, what brings you joy? You know, it's a participation. This community can build a lot of different things, a lot of bridges, and hopefully we can thwart all of the dark energy that's basically supposedly there to cause us to stumble. So in my area, which I am the steward of, look, it's like I'm holding the guitars behind me, but I'm talking with you. I'm holding this energy. In my area that I'm steward of, I tend to obliterate all the mess around me by first cutting off the stream of mess. If I find that we have plastic all over the trails, and it's made of water bottles, and it's made of hair bands, and it's made of Band-Aids, well, the first thing I want to do is see, am I contributing to that same mess? Whether I throw a plastic bottle into a recycle bin and the wind doesn't blow it out, and the wind blows it out or doesn't blow it out, the fact is I'm contributing to these messes by continuing to purchase more and more of them. So if there's something I see that I don't like, what I want to do first is stop subscribing to it. So if you're watching some news at night that's causing anxiety, the first thing you might want to consider is stop subscribing to it. Subscribe to something else. Look for something else that maybe is not as daunting. If you're into scary movies this particular month, maybe look at some of the scarier content that's online. Like for an example, I don't know, look up something like on spirituality and demons or something. You might find some very interesting logic that helps explain some of the things that are going on in our own communities. And we know this is true. We can see it in the comments and participation fields on many social threads. On many social threads, you'll see someone just lash out and call someone a name. They don't even know that person. They call them a name. For an example, on this particular platform, I was commenting on another site where someone was talking about something uplifting, and someone just responded to me and called me an idiot. And I thought it was quite inconsiderate, but not inconsiderate because it hurt my feelings. It was inconsiderate because nobody considered to evaluate the person they were calling an idiot before calling them an idiot. See, in order to run that assessment and to run with it and carry that to me and say, hey, here, idiot, the first thing is I'd be having to be willing to accept that torch, and I'm not. I would say I'm quite educated. And I'm also someone who has heart. And in my heart, I know when I'm making someone feel upset or when I'm making them feel better. And we all know this. And so the people, for an example, who might be watching this either now or in the future, are watching this thinking, man, I wonder if any times that this person shared a message if they were talking about me. Look, I'm going to tell you, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about my personal life and the obstacles that I've faced when I'm going through this journey of getting healthy again. To get healthy again, we have to run the gamut of addiction. And when I say that, what I mean is no matter what we try to do, someone is going to come and offer us something else. If you believe in any kind of scripture, or even if you don't believe, please hear this example. This is just an example. Let's say it's a story. It's a story, whether it's true or not. In a particular story, there was someone who went to go fasting, abstaining from food, abstaining from consuming anything for 40 days. And what happened was people came, or some entity came, to offer them everything they could want. A whole community, food, anything they could want to break that fast. Mentally, we have to have the fortitude to withstand what it is that we want to bypass in order to achieve what we're trying to achieve. So there are many people who are going to look at this and who won't share it and who won't think about it, but they'll also look at all the other ones who have plenty of subscribers and participate in those realms without being fully in tune, without being fully aware what it is they're talking about, because most people want the shortcut. One time I talked about a water fast to lower my blood pressure, and I talked about weight loss when it came to a water fast as well. And someone asked me, because they wanted to go straight into a water fast, basically to achieve the weight loss results. Now, the weight loss results were an unexpected side effect. They are not the reason why I went and attempted this fast. And to hear the whole story, you would have to backtrack and understand, I'm not your doctor, I'm not the person who's fixing your mind. I'm telling you how I'm fixing my mind, and you're able to disseminate this information and apply it to your own logic if you are truly an open-minded free thinker. Some people are really mad for me even suggesting that this is a possibility if you are an open-minded free thinker. I don't know who's watching. I mean, I do, but I don't. You understand? Like, some people are participating and some people are participating and saying, well, I like this, but you can't share this, or don't do it this way. And at the same time, I'm really not trying to tell you how to run your own shows. I'm just coming here to run my own marathon, so to speak. And it's not even a marathon. We're just on cruise control here with the added luxury of having something called adaptive cruise control. And our adaptive cruise control is looking forward to those wide open freeways where we're able to pass through these roadways with our maintained vehicle that we've already checked the tire pressures on, that we've already checked the tires for wear and tear, that we've already checked the oil status of. We're in our vehicles, our vehicles. We are in our vehicles right now. You're in your vehicle watching this in front of you as you're driving, either with something to consume or if this is the only thing you're consuming right now. There's a person that I used to watch quite frequently. He hasn't even had breakfast yet. Can I get a hello there? You understand? There are people who are talking about this stuff who have helped me to understand the same thing. And I'm just telling it to a different segment who might not hear the person who's asking to get a hello there. You might want instead to have seen the rock version, the 80s rock version, complete with some scary art and everything, just for this particular month or for the whole duration of the year. To acknowledge your strengths and weaknesses is to acknowledge yourself, to forgive yourself for your shortcomings, and to grow from those things that you've learned is an absolute exercise. So if you think this is cute, I'm glad you think it's cute. If you think this is holistic and beneficial, please click on subscribe. Please click on the comments link and add something that is beneficial, an amen, or, whatever, constructive criticism, anything that's beneficial. But again, the fact is, until you begin to participate in ways where you're not just seeing something, where you're not just seeing someone else go through the motions, where you yourself are picking up these weights, where you yourself are addressing your health, then your health may not ever change. You can think many things into reality, but remember, when there's no effort and you're getting to these things with no effort, it's not long-term. There is no long-term success to something that's temporary and instant. And also, some people will give you instant success for just some moments of time, but then they'll ask for everything in return until you have nothing left to give. So surround yourself, sure, with people who are positive, or surround yourself with nobody if you can stand to be alone. When you're alone, when your mind is at ease, you don't worry about whether or not there's someone else there. Right now, I have only this social media presence, and this particular presence might also be on a limited time frame, maybe because of my own choices. I feel like we've got a pretty good following here. I feel like we've got a little bit of information and understanding and insight going. And at the same time, what does it benefit me? I mean, if I'm sharing these things and nobody's participating, then basically I might as well be talking to myself. And if I'm talking to myself, well, that'll be real clear because I'll have 0 comments, 0 participation, and 0 people will have benefited from this information that I've been sharing. I believe that's not the case. I believe that people have been benefiting from this information that I'm sharing. I believe that people have been putting aside 10 to 20 to an hour's worth of minutes and not picking up that drink or those opioids or whatever it is that's in the back of our mind constantly. I believe people are talking about sobriety, and I believe people are thinking about changing the way that we respond with one another. I believe it, and I know it is happening. And at the same time, like I say, this is kind of an open-ended forum question. Should I even continue this segment, or should I just let it kind of putter out to what it is, the inevitable? If YouTube is not the place where you want to get your information for health, for wellness and conservation, please pay attention to what goes through your own hands. Know that when you get those fast food conveniences in one hand and the adequately convenient drink to wash it down in the other hand, know that when they're practically giving it away to you, it's like I just said, you're getting this gratification, and what's getting taken from you is everything in return. If you're unable to, under your own power, do some push-ups, do some sit-ups, walk a mile uphill, you might want to consider that that's not very far, no matter what age we are. I used to walk with this one cat, over 80 years old, this person is, and their mind is so stubborn that they were able to overcome even being told that they could no longer walk. They regrew a broken leg fracture to the point where it was solid enough to hike 10 miles a day after that. For all I know, they're still doing this. There was something I said about being grateful that kind of made them upset. And there's many people out there who, when I talk about spirituality, and even the example I used earlier about, let's say there was a story and someone went to go get tempted for 40 days. These things can drive agitation in someone who is associated, who has associated themselves as either a believer or non-believer campsite. If they've associated themselves with one side or another, they may not be able to hear these things. And I say that with, let's add a grain of salt to this, take it with a grain of salt, that I've talked with people who are devout Wiccans, and I've talked to them while I was wearing a crucifix. And some of you have seen it. It's a crucifix that's made out of, it's gold, but the inlay is opal, one of my favorite materials, stones. Its reflections are brilliant, and I believed that the symbol, the cross, was an interesting conversational point, but that's not why I got it. It was just something that called to me. I saw its beauty. I really wanted to wear it, and so I wear it. You know, I've shown you some of the things that have washed into my hands from the ocean, and I've talked about those in other segments. But this was made by a master craftsman of jewelry, and they made something that was so beautiful. And I wore it, and this person was talking with me, and they really got mad at me by saying that my foundational beliefs and the people like me are the ones that obliterated the native history and the native practices that were in place long before Christianity. Now, whether the wars that have happened because of religion are true or not, there was still some element of that religion, of those peace talks, that talked to being peaceful. And there was still some person in almost all of these stories that said, hey, peace is the way to go. You know, turn the other cheek. If someone hits you, turn the other cheek. And also forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. So the more that I do this, the more I find people can try to jab a needle in the voodoo doll they have of me. Sometimes I feel it, but I just relax. Listen. There's another person that always said, listen. And they have a lot of genius in their showmanship. And they weren't really relaxed because they were afraid of wildlife. It's a common recurring theme. If you are not able to enjoy nature, I know this one smart guy is absolutely able to get out into nature all the time. That's where they broadcast from. If you're not able to enjoy nature and have the bees and the butterflies fly by without getting agitated, you're not really calm. And when you're not calm, everything is, even your blood pressure is racing all the time. So again, it does us extreme, positive, well-being type long-term results to alleviate those stressors. Some people talk about cutting off narcissists. Well, you know, in some cases, that's your family. In some cases, that's our friends. And so I say, instead of just cutting things off, some things will die off naturally. But for you yourself, the health that you control on your day, on your journey, starts the moment that you wake up. And you're either waking up going, oh, another day, or you wake up grateful. If you're waking up grateful, can I please get a like, thumbs up? If you're not waking up grateful, give me a thumbs down. And then as you watch this video and your attitude changes, change it to a thumbs up, or don't. It doesn't matter. If you interact here at all whatsoever, just understand that when you watch and you're hearing something, you're either going to bear the burden of what you've heard, or you're going to have a conversation and help me to grow as well. I don't have all the answers. None of us do. Not even the smartest smart guy who is out there, you know, breathing in the fresh, amazing air, selling all those things that are maybe brought in, imported from other places, whether they're local or not. They may not be sustainable. So the more that we talk about this, and the more that we talk about whether we're selling something with one another, selling something to one another or not, the more that we talk about energy and all that, some of us might believe, well, you know, if he's not all that interested in money, I definitely don't want to pay him for some of these things that he's doing, you know, whether he's picking up trash and asking for donations for each thing he picks up. I don't want to contribute energy to something that I don't believe in. Well, if you don't believe in it, why are you watching this? What do you believe in your heart? What do you feel in your heart when you go to sleep? Do you think about these things? Do you think about the conversations we had? And how many years does it take to have a conversation with one another that's more than just the weather, that's more than just, you know, who's playing the games, that's more than just who's sick now? Are we spreading good news, bad news? What are we doing? Here's what I'm doing. Let me show you. This is how I want to do it. It's just 25 pounds. I've already done plenty of sets. I'm going to do a few more. And we're going to round this out at about a half hour. This is a half-hour workout on your brain. This is a half-hour workout on what you can do to change your own circumstances. These are some amazing weights that I got when I worked in the corporate world. The corporate world had something where they would give us an amount of money to put towards these type of workout items, including the treadmill that you kind of see right off screen here. I'm going to put these down now. Stay tuned. Thanks so much for staying tuned. 25 pounds per arm, that's 50 pounds. Some people whose winters are coming up have to bring in 50 pounds of firewood over and over. These things cause us struggle if we haven't done them regularly. For me, I've told you, I can eat the vegan day, the 7-day vegan challenge and lose weight and feel great. Physically, I still have not done any of the work that it took to build that upper body strength or to improve my cardiovascular system. And this is the vehicle that I've had, that I've errantly paid attention to for 44 years. For some of it's more, and for some of us it's less. But I can tell you that our aging process starts on the inside. By the time you start seeing gray hairs and skin that's losing elasticity, these are things that are happening internally as well. So what we can do to reverse these things is to begin to consciously make choices as to what passes through our own hands, what passes through our own eyes, what passes into our mouth, what passes into our ears, what passes into our proximity. And sometimes things that are not healthy, not beneficial, will cross or share the trails with us. In those instances, peace is not the only way the lonely highway goes. We can be angry, but I'll tell you what, the ones who are careless and the ones who are definitely driven by the ego will escalate things to the point where you might find yourself in situations that you didn't think you would be in, especially legalese. In other words, if you escalate something in public, in private, someone can take that information and bring you to court over it. Isn't that kind of weird? However, if you just say, hey, look, that was good. I'm glad you thought this was, I'm glad you think I'm an idiot. I think you're magnificent. I really like your commentary. Thank you for your feedback. And just kind of move along. It's up to the other person to continue to strike at you. And I'll tell you what, when you're filled with light, the darkness, it doesn't faze you. It never has, it never will. The ego the ego on one of our shoulders can hear something and respond to it, but how we feed, how we consume can also differentiate how we respond. And these are all truths. I challenge you to try some of these things yourself. Eat better. Do any kind of, pick up a phone book. Right now, I've got the great fortune to have used these things, these tools that I've accumulated throughout my lifespan. I've made these choices, and now I'm using these items to help me to breathe new life into a segment that's either going to wither away, like this online presence, or that's going to flourish in ways where we didn't even know that that was going to happen. So you can either help me to know whether I'm doing the right thing by participating, by sharing, by subscribing, by doing something, or you can let this just kind of go as if it was something that didn't even matter in your day. And when you do that, I'm telling you, it's going to be something that resonates with you one way or the other. You know, this isn't something I'm trying to take by force. We're not here by coincidence together watching this. You're here for a reason, and that reason is either something that's because you're trying to figure out what's this person going to say next. Is it about me? I've got a lot going on. I don't have time to talk about anyone specific right now. I can tell you that in general, the things that are happening in the world right now, the payments that are due to the people who are expecting to receive those payments, you know, even if they were invoiced or not, they're not coming in. There's something unusual in the way the world is operating right now. And unless someone by force says, hey, your service is going to be discontinued if you don't re-up. Unless they're by force, some people won't re-up. They'll just let it go ahead, and then they'll get mad when something that was being paid for goes offline. And I'm just talking generalities. I'm not talking about this channel or any websites that are out there that I host or anything like that. I'm basically talking about this is the way the world is right now. And we're either going to get frustrated to death over it. We're going to be on the phone going, oh my God, I can hardly talk to this person. I'm so upset. And then we're going to go to sleep upset. And guess what our dreams are going to be like? Guess how we're going to wake up? Guess how the rest of our day is going to be? Is it going to be energized, or is it going to be like downtrodden? Who wants to walk around in a downtrodden state? Don't you want to be shoulders upright, strong and healthy and vigorous? Don't you want to feel love? The first thing you can do to feel that is to become it. And the way to become it is to fall in love with yourself again. Some people, that might come across as hearing something like narcissism. Other people might hear, hey, you know, that person's doctor must have given them some great advice because they're doing really well. They're really coming around. There's something, I want to take their medication. The only medication that we really need is to eat better nutrients. 7-Day Vegan Challenge. That one smart guy told me about it. I wouldn't have thought about it until they talked about it. Improve our the things that we consume in terms of what we watch, what we listen to, what we explore, what we immerse ourselves in. And if we're only at busy shopping centers all the time where our mental approach is kind of bogged down and troubled, maybe we don't want to continue following those trends. Maybe we take a weekend off and just finish off what's actually in front of us in the pantries that we have. In a lot of these situations, you'll hear so many mixed variations of information because there's also all these things going on in the real world where people are talking about prepping. And it's imperative that we are prepared for situations where we might have shortcomings on resources, or we might have shortages of being able to communicate. It's imperative that we think these things through, and it's imperative that we don't really worry about it, because the only thing we can worry about is right now. If 2 months from now, if we have a severe, significant weather event that causes us outages of power, what do we have around us to recover from that? For the people who get into nature quite frequently, a lot of people already have the sleeping gear, the cold weather sleeping gear that's necessary to help them survive if things were to go wrong. But how about other sources? What about water? What about water for pets? What about conserving water? What about going less often with turning on those TVs nationwide? What about going less often with subscribing to the ritualistic behaviors like shopping for the next holiday because shipping supplies, shipping delays might happen? On that note, I've got a song that I wrote called Sipping Delays. I may change this channel to Alcoholics Anonymous instead of Anonymous. Anonymous. I've dealt with alcoholism and substance abuse in my own family. In my own lifespan, I can say that we are all probably addicts, and I myself have been addicted to many things in the past. And in order to overcome those things, the first thing we have to do is admit. If we just continue picking up these sugary substances over and over without admitting to the fact that we're addicted to it, admit if we're picking up these bottles of alcohol over and over without admitting that we're addicted to it. Once we've admitted to it, the next thing to do is to not carry the shame for it. A lot of us can feel ashamed for it. These are experiences that we've gone through. It's an experience. Even if we're still going through it right now, we're still going through it going, when is this guy going to shut up so I can take my drink? Is that what you're thinking? Or are you thinking, this guy is so brilliant, he's telling me something that's making me think I don't want to have a drink right now. And I can't believe I've gone almost 36 minutes without having a drink. So for some people, this is true. And I know it's true because there are certain things that I've had my mind on where sometimes I'll watch some smart character talking about something that I never thought about. And then basically I'm able to recover and go, wow, that person gave me some insight. I might not like everything they say because some of the stuff might not apply, or they might have said it in a way that I've been conditioned to automatically not feel comfortable with. But in order to understand how knowledge works, the first thing we have to do is become comfortable obliterating barriers. And these barriers of communication are the first thing that has to be eliminated. I talk about generational conflict when it comes to having conversations with the people who could probably further our causes and further our messages. And a lot of times I'm met with, I'll say, the opposite of faith-based responses, politics-based responses, where people say, look, when we vote someone better, and they usually say it like that, look, and they'll almost always say my name after it. Look, Ray, when we vote for something else, then we'll have what's needed to bring us peace. And right there, there'll be one person, look, arguing, look, Ray, and there'll be me saying, look, I've got to stop the car because you're escalating this situation. Why are you stopping the car? You're escalating the Look, this is a challenging conversation, what we're having right now. And unless we're both parked and not eating and not drinking and not multitasking, we're not really going to be hearing one another. If we're not hearing one another, why are we having a conversation? You see, these are challenging times, and conversation, health, wellness, all of this goes together. If we can't talk these things through, well, what are we going to do? I can write rhymes and songs and all kinds of stuff about it. I can tell you, hey, I may or may not be on this channel. Hey, this channel may be deleted by the AI bots. Hey, this channel might not be worth watching. I think it's worth watching. I would watch it, and I would watch it because it inspires me to learn, hey, that person's never done this before and they're doing it. I mean, they didn't do a great job of it at first, but who does? It's like watching a toddler come out, with a guitar and run into the wall with the guitar. It's like they didn't even go through the doorway, like a dog with a big giant branch that can't go through the doorway, through the fence way. I don't know what I'm doing any more than you do, and at the same time, I don't need to know. I just need to know what brings me joy, and I just need to pursue that on a daily basis. I'm dishing out. all kinds of dollars to you, all kinds of wealth. And the only question is, are you picking it up off the table? Or did you find it crude? Are you offended? Are you easily offended? This is a very serious topic. For the people who are easily offended, let me suggest it's not me who's offending you. Because even if you're mad at me for showing some styrofoam art that someone else made, that may not be your cup of tea, whether you're angry that I have guitars that have designs on them that are different from the standard. Look, that doesn't even have a guitar port. There's slashes in it instead of a guitar port. This one has a dragon on it. Oh my, I'm upset. I'm not really upset by the things I see. I see a lot of things on TV that really shouldn't be there. I don't get upset by it, but I also don't have to subscribe to it. If I'm upsetting you, though, think about it. Some of the things that I'm upsetting you with might just be open thought awareness. If you're seeing it and being upset by the things I'm saying, like, hey, you can do this. Sometimes you have to cut things down to the foundation. Sometimes even the foundation has to be torn apart to rebuild structurally. Sometimes even the foundation that we once thought was so sturdy needs to be torn down. And by that, I mean, sometimes the thoughts of our fathers might need to be questioned, and instead we need to talk with our mothers. Sometimes we need to talk with our siblings, whether they're step siblings or real siblings. Sometimes us in time, you and I, there you are, we're siblings. Sometimes we're siblings. Sometimes we're siblings that seem like we're, soulmates. Sometimes we're soulmates that are more like lovers. Sometimes when we're in love, whether we're a lover or not, we love everyone. These are all just basic thoughts, basic energy. And we're either passing the time learning from these basic pieces of energy, or again, we're just biding our time trying to figure out anxiously, what do we do next? The first thing to consider is your whole day starts the moment you wake up, if you're lucky enough to. Not all of us will wake up every day. At some point, this is going to cease to happen. And then whatever happens next, happens next. But in the meantime, as I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord, I pray to all my peace to keep. And if I die before I wake, well, I hope you watch my next video after the segment break. I've got videos posting out through the beginning of next year. By the time that I go on this upcoming trip, if I'm lucky enough to go through this trip, I might have videos uploading through the end of next year. I really don't know. What I do know is that I'm doing this in my spare time, and I'm multitasking, doing this in the same instances where I'm actually training to do those things that I really want to do. So when you see footage from the trail, when you see footage of the snake that crosses paths with me, when you see footage when I show you how a snake responds when you almost accidentally run into it, when you see these things, when you see the lizard, when you see the birds, the flocks of birds, when you see the deer, when you hear the elk singing out, that's a video that I've uploaded that has 0 watches. I can't believe nobody would want to hear that. In my life, nature brings me absolute joy. That's why I've got a mountain lion here. I'm drawing the sign from Big Bend. These guitars, there's things about the music that inspires me. West Texas inspires me. Nature inspires me. The songs that I've written talk a lot about nature. Some people understand that mission. Some people understand that there is life and death when it comes to everything as a holistic conversation that we're having. And some people can understand that we are either bringing onto ourselves life or death by the very things that we consume, the way we consume them. And sometimes we can recognize when we're exploding out life or death to the people that we encounter on a regular basis. We're either blessing each other or we're cursing each other. And sometimes some people can mistake what's happening because the ego does a very good job of trying to denounce anything that treads anywhere near the discomfort center of our emotions. In order to come to peace, the emotions need to be almost turned off. And in order to turn off the emotions, what we can do is eat differently. So it's well past noon right now. Again, I think it's October 17th. I'm not really sure. Could be wrong, could be right. But what I am certain about is I've only had some water today. And that water I took on a good amount of water, and then I sweat out a good amount of sweat, toxins. I've presented an episode on that too, talking about sins, confession. If we can't say something without feeling shame, then we might still not like ourselves. If we don't like ourselves, we can't love ourselves. If we can't look ourselves in the mirror, look in our eyes, if we can't look in our own eye, in either eye, both of them, you should shift back and forth. If you typically look into one eye in the mirror, shift back and forth, look at the other eye. If we typically eat with one hand, try just a few times eating using a utensil or not, but eating with another hand. Try something that expands your brain, expands your experience. Because if you don't, you run the risk of running a routine and becoming a bot that just is automatically programmed to respond to one another with the very cute snippets of whatever it is that we decide to respond with. We're either responding with our heart, or we're just talking about the weather. We're either responding because we heard the words, or we're just asking a question that wasn't even relevant. Have you ever been in class where the teacher asks a question and then basically someone almost asks the same question? It's like, well, what about this? They just talked about this. Were you not paying attention? Most of us are multitasking. So health is basically wellness and conservation. Health is not just physical. Health is also mental. If you need any kind of assistance hearing this, then I understand that's probably where our shortcomings are gonna occur conversationally. If you're hearing me and not trying to participate with me, that's fine. Go on to another more successful channel where people tell it in a way that's more beautifully packaged. Be responsible when it comes to hearing what you're hearing. People will talk about, you deserve this. This is the way that it's set up. The system, you're born free. Everything comes to you based on your thought. This is true. When you're coming to something from a stance of desperation, sometimes things will come to you way more easily than you ever knew. When you're coming to something from a stance of strength, sometimes those easy to get things will not be there anymore. And you have to you just have to be patient for the more appropriate, whatever it is you were asking for, which will show up, but sometimes you have to let go of other things first. For me, to get the guitar of my dreams, I had to let go of all my camera gear. To pay off some of my debt, I had to let go of my camera gear. In order to achieve some of the things that I wanted to do, in order to achieve the health that I wanted to achieve, I had to let go of the comfort. I had to start immersing myself into, the action part. Remember, faith plus action. You have to put those things together. You cannot just operate as if there's a right wing or a left wing. Both wings are needed. And in some cases, one might be a little bit hamstrung, injured, or what have you. That's when we pick the other one up and uplift. And also sometimes this will happen too, where the other person's like only half committed to grabbing onto what it is that's being presented. These are all true things. So for those who have been omnipresent, who have always been there watching, and they're watching still, they're in the shadows. For those who are laying in the shadows, waiting for you, setting snares. The good thing about having a calm mind is that you're able to remember things long term. And these snares that are set up to snare you really will snare the adversary. because the adversary works on half-truth. And all you have to do every time someone snares you with half-truth is just present the truth. If you're not ashamed of who you are, if you're not ashamed of the experiences you've gone through, if you're not ashamed of the addiction-based situations that you've been in, then you're fully capable of understanding what going to a confession of sorts was. This is a confession. This is an open heart surgery. This is an open mind surgery right now, what we're talking about. And you know it's true because, again, it's like here goes another almost an hour of time. This is an hour of power. This is an hour of absolute power. I'll try to incorporate segments where I show you some of the things that I'm doing. I've got some new pull-up rings that are basically, I'm challenged to do a full pull-up right now. And so in order to alleviate that, there are some straps that I have here where I can pull them down and basically lay on my back and pull myself up from the floor. It's almost like a reverse push-up. You know, it's a pull-up, but not with my full body weight. It's like basically I'm pulling my back up and then my heels and my feet are on the ground. So I made it a little bit easier so I can at least get the motion in. That's also something I learned on this channel. Someone one time told me they had floaters in their eyes. And I looked on YouTube. There are plenty of solutions as far as how to alleviate floaters in your eyes. One of the main things that I keep coming back to in every segment, including being able to perform pull-ups, being able to work out without getting sore afterwards, being able to think without getting agitated, all come back to something this really smart guy said to me about the 7-day vegan challenge. The 7-day vegan challenge is by far one of the most eye-opening, physique-opening concepts that I had ever been exposed to that I never thought existed. I never knew it existed. Because from basically when I was being raised at home, I would have, on both of my parents' side, and even step-parents for that matter, I would have instant-type foods, you know, things that were from a place of convenience. Whether it was from a can and it had, you know, little stew bits, or whether it was from a box and it had basically, you know, something you could slice up and share between each other. I'm grateful for all of these experiences, truly. And I'm telling you that I did not recover my health nearly as quickly when I was working out if I was eating the standard fanfare. When I had the 7-day vegan challenge, look at that. Look at this. You know, it's not like the biggest muscles in the world that I have, but I never had put on muscle prior to eating differently. This is something that it happens, and it happens naturally, and people across the board will tell you. It's just that you have to search for information that's not being advertised to you. And even in some cases where people make it to a certain echelon where they make it, they're getting paid from this information they're sharing with you, they'll still sell you the shirts. They'll sell you all the products that go with advertising whatever their solution was. You know, and that's great that we can get in on that. That's great that we can get items that have been advertised, like this Storm Shadow image that's on that guitar. It's great that we can do that because we want to support one another. But we also should consider supporting ourselves. And the reason I suggest that is because, again, as I go out into the world doing these things and trying to bring this awareness and helping people clean up the messes that are left behind, I'm also being almost met with resistance. I'm being met with things where people will not answer the questions. When I ask them, hey, did you see this? They won't answer the questions. They will not answer the question when I say, hey, can we talk about this topic, or is all of this off limits? They cannot calm down enough to have a simple meal with somebody, you know? So all of these things are things that we got to think about as these traditional rituals approach. And by rituals, I mean the holidays that are coming up. It's mid-October right now. By the time November rolls around, are we going to be trying to prepare to get those animals that basically are being told to us are already in short supply? Or are we going to change our tune? Are we going to have a really grateful Thanksgiving where we're giving thanks and not upset that we got the wrong sides, got the wrong thing to eat, got the wrong people at our table? Are we giving thanks? Are we grateful? Are we grateful for our own health? And are we giving other people that same type of health opportunity? Or are we feeding the beast? Are we feeding the ritual? Are we feeding the addiction? These are all true things. I mean, and for that, for speaking the truth, I've been put down by my family. I've been put down by my friends. It's almost like I was an addiction that people put down. And actually, I was the opposite of an addiction that people put down. But that's okay. I'm still picking them up. I'm still doing my best to pick people up. And I appreciate those who are picking me up as well. I'm not saying I've been completely left behind or let down or trodden on. But I am suggesting that the things I'm sharing are not just cute. They're not rambling. They're not ranting. They're not excessive. They're not scary. Certainly an inanimate mummy behind me is not. In fact, this story, I'm going to tell you real quick. I've only got a few more minutes here. This torso right here behind me and these hands are made by 2 different manufacturers. These grips are made by a manufacturer called Guitar Grip. Guitar Grip makes these hands that you can mount onto the wall that hold guitars. That's basically what, almost with the exception of 2 holders, this is one of them right here. This holder is something that I modified this treadmill so that if I'm playing here, I can just set the guitar down briefly, change some settings on my laptop, pick the guitar back up and play. But every other grip in this house is a guitar grip. This is also the floor stand here is also obviously not a guitar grip. But the hands I got because they were some of the most detailed hands, the most compelling things that I ever thought of having to hold these guitars. They're mummy hands. And they're so fun to me that I did a search online and I did a search for mummy torso. And I found almost the same exact color made by someone, an artist on Etsy. And it's basically, I don't know what kind, I say styrofoam, it's not styrofoam, but latex, whatever it's made out of. Somebody made that. And some people will talk about law of attraction and different energies, dark energies, positive energies. And some people will just talk about, these are all stories. How is it that someone unrelated to these grips that I got made something that was almost exactly the same color and the same size dimensionally so that the scale was right as the hands I got? Was it coincidence? How is it that you're watching this video and you're being challenged with this imagery when I keep moving and showing you? Do you get scared of it? How is it that the fan is going and that, you might be upset about the lighting, how I talk, how I sing? How is it that all of that's happening, but we're not having a conversation yet? How is it that basically we haven't had lunch? How is it that I'm still doing this, whether or not anyone's cheering me on? And how is it that some people are still just sitting there, taking a back seat, not actually putting in the action part that goes hand in hand with faith? How is it that we're operating with this divide internally? How is it? How is it that I'm the one bringing this message to the attention of some of the people who will not bring this conversation forward? And how is it that this is all going to turn out? That's up to you. If you decide to subscribe or to share or to like or to comment, that's great. If you don't, that's great too, that's fine. None of this is anything different than me multitasking and bringing to you the hope that I know that someone else brought me when I was trying to learn to have a new approach to my own health. So that opened me up spiritually, mentally. That opened me up in ways that I had not thought before. And I know that we're either friends or we're just friends waiting to meet each other, and maybe we've already met, and maybe we were friends at some point, and for whatever reason, there are some objections. You know, I'm not trying to sell anything though, so you don't have to object too much. You can just take it for what it's worth. In this case, you're watching this for free unless you clicked on the description and found a way to contribute to this channel, whether it was by energy and the means of monetary compensation or comments or a thumbs up or a thumbs down. But no matter what, I hope that you've had an hour of sobriety here to think about things. You've got to watch. I hope you enjoyed watching me lift some weights. I hope you enjoyed some of these stories that I was talking about. And I hope you really enjoy your day. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for understanding how broad this channel is. Thanks for understanding that we're talking about an all-encompassing message. And thanks for the love. And I love you too. Have a great day. Peace, love, and all that old school stuff.